I was downstairs in the house and I just went off at God of like, look, you said, this is what you said. This is what you said. I did everything you said, but you still took her. But here's what I came to realize through that whole event.
Yeah.
Our call is not God's call.
Yeah.
Okay. What we want is not what the patient wants.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we all wanted her to be here.
Yeah.
She didn't want to be sick anymore. She was tired of fighting that battle.
Yeah.
She was tired of going. She was just tired of fighting that battle. And that vessel was beat up. That vessel was tired. And she was just tired. And all she wanted was peace and not to be sick anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And I always tell people, he didn't cure her, he healed her.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Chemo Glow, where the glow doesn't define me. I define the glow. Guys, wow, that opening. The glow doesn't define me. I define the glow. Well, you guys, we're going to be streaming every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube. We added Twitter last night, so you guys can find us there. Please share, follow, subscribe. Check us out where podcasts are available. Chemo Glow is celebrating Black History Month, and we're also celebrating men this month. All my guests will be men. So join us as we talk to caregivers, thrivers, survivors, fathers, brothers, husbands. I'm looking forward to February. My guest tonight is Michael Virgil. You just seen part of our podcast that we did a little bit last month. I released it on the 31st. He's going to be sharing his wife's journey and his truth. Healing on the Other Side was episode 12. We're in season 2. I'm looking forward to him speaking. But before we talk about that, most of you knew or heard of Nunny Reece. She fiercely fought stage 4 metastatic breast cancer for over 3 years. She left us on Monday, February 1st. A lot of people are asking, what can we do to help support this mother of 3? Well, I reached out to Rhonda Howe, who knew her, and she started the fundraiser. She reached out to her husband. Her husband gave us the okay to add it to tonight's live. So Chemo Glow and my Glow producers, we will all be donating at the end of our podcast or our live stream. I'm sorry. All right, guys. Now we're talking about healing on the other side. How fitting that Michael is our guest tonight. Hi, Michael. How you doing? We're going to go ahead.
I'm doing good. How about you?
I am doing so well. I'm excited about tonight. You were on episode last season. You were on last season, and I told you I was going to bring you back.
Right.
And then you graced us with our podcast, episode 12. So now you are here, and I'm excited about. How's your day? You've been rushing to get on with us?
My day it's been a good day. It's been a little hectic, but it's been a good day. It's been a great day.
I'm so glad that you joined us. Now, some of our people that are on have listened to your podcast. So we're going to go over that. I even brought something in honor of your wife.
Okay.
So you told me during the podcast,
Regina, wow, man,
that she wore
That's
a polka
exactly it to
dot.
the T. Wow, man.
And when I called you on the phone earlier and we were talking, I was like, I have something. And I finished listening to your podcast and I pulled this out in honor of her, in memory of her, in
Wow.
celebration of her. So,
Thank you. Thank you. So, wow, that's to the T too. That's wow. Didn't see that one coming.
you didn't see that
Didn't
one
see that one
coming.
coming at all. Wow.
Well, tell us just a little bit about this polka dot.
Well, that is the first thing I saw on her when I first laid eyes on her in Walmart. She had that same pattern, that same purple with the polka dots, that exact same thing. Man, you got me misty eyed over here. Wow.
Well, your podcast to me and your live that you did last season was just so interesting and so lovely, and so you celebrate her.
Right.
You celebrate her and you continue to celebrate her.
Right.
So so we're going to celebrate her tonight if that's okay.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and you that's the first thing you seen when you seen her, and she's like, she's going to be mine.
Right.
She will be mine.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your love affair before you guys had to deal with the glow.
Well, in my podcast, I talked about it. Again, it was just something that I didn't even see coming. Basically, as I said, I was in the show shopping for my apartment, and I saw her in there, and she didn't know that I was transferring to the store at the time. And after I transferred to the store, I got to know her. We talked a little bit initially. As I told you before, they were trying to set me up with her daughter Janet because of how I looked at that particular time. But Janet was thinking like, no, he liked my mama. So one thing led to another. We started dating. And then not too far after that, we got married, and the rest is history. Right.
Oh wow! You met her. You traveled. That's one of the things you talked about. You traveled a lot together. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we went to Gatlinburg. We went to Puerto Rico, the Bahamas. We went to the Bahamas on our anniversary in December, and it was kind of cool out there on the water. But the travel part is something that we did a lot of. Every time we just went any and anywhere that we wanted to go, at that particular time before, the cancer, before that, needless to say, Niagara Falls, the mountains, Bahamas, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was we had a real good time in Puerto Rico. I'm gonna make you laugh about that because of Rose's complexion and because of her hair. So we're in Puerto Rico and people are speaking Spanish to her. And I always had to interject, no habla español, no habla español.
You know what's funny about that? My husband had the same thing. We went on our honeymoon right after we were married, and we knew that we were going to have surgery.
Right.
In a little bit, within 16 days. So we went there, and everybody always, we're speaking Spanish to him. He knows a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah. Like me, I knew just enough to get by.
Just enough to get by.
Yeah, so that experience there was interesting because everywhere we went, because of her complexion and her hair, it was just like I wanted to speak Spanish to her, and I had to clarify that she doesn't speak Spanish. So.
Well, I'm glad you guys had a chance to travel.
Right.
Had the chance to see the world. Tell us a little bit about your wife's diagnosis. Give us her name. We've said it.
Her name is Rose. Right.
All right.
When she was diagnosed was 2008, if I remember correctly. And when the call came through, I actually got the call, but I had to call her and tell her, that the doctor was trying to reach her. Evidently, that you made contact with the doctor, and then she called me, and told me the news. And I was just, even now, it's still a shock to me. Even now, here we are, we're coming up on 6 years. May of this year will be 6 years that she's been gone. Wow. Even now to this day, it still shocks me because, again, that is something that I never envisioned. I never thought. It was something that never entered my mind. And when that call came, and then when she called me and told me what happened, I was, again, speechless.
Mm-hmm.
Go to her job, went to her job, met her at the job. We, in the parking lot, we cried together for a little bit, and are you able to drive? Yeah. She got in her car and I got in mine, and we got to the house and we discussed it a little bit. And then we didn't really talk much about it after. The conversations and stuff like that didn't really start happening until we're going to the doctor and going through the process of this is what's going to happen, and that whole situation there. So yeah, it needless to say, it was really interesting. Needless to say, but again, as I said, that something I never even envisioned in my wildest dreams. I just never saw that. Never even entered my mind.
So when you guys received the diagnosis, and then
Mm-hmm.
you did you discuss it with your family?
We did.
Okay.
Again, as I said before in the podcast, I let her basically take the lead on all this.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, I'm on the sidelines. I'm your cheerleader. I'm your coach. I'm in the corner. If you need me, I'll step out of the corner and help you out. But I basically let her, take the lead on that. And then once that was in the atmosphere, as I like to say,
Mm-hmm.
um, her doctor was saying, okay, this is what I need to happen. I want you to bring the entire family in,
Mm-hmm.
the immediate family, basically, so we can have the discussion on what's going to happen and what we're going to do, and what the treatment is going to be. And we did that. And as I said before, we were in the waiting room with so many of us
Uh-huh.
that when he took us to the exam room, he says, I got to get more chairs. I got to get more chairs. He said, yeah, you do. You weren't expecting as many people, were you? So
You had
that
a family. You
yeah.
had a
Yeah, we had
community
we had a
around
miniature
you.
village. We had a little bit of a village,
Yes.
and that just the support system, all in all, basically. And we, when he asked if anybody has any questions, I came out of my mouth and said, "Let's make it happen. Let's do what we need to do."
And your wife was diagnosed with triple negative.
Correct.
Okay. And at that time when she was diagnosed, what did they tell you guys about triple negative?
Well, it was kind of a new thing in a way of speaking, because it's one of those cancers that is here, but not a great magnitude of people have it per
Mm-hmm.
se. So the information was like, to me anyway, was basically, this is what she has, and this is how we're going to treat it. So in my mind, I'm thinking that it's like the other cancers, basically.
Yeah.
You have the radiation, you have the chemo, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Have a nice day. See you next go around. If it comes back, then we go back through this process again. So, and I was going based upon other survivors and thrivers that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Going based upon when my grandmother had cancer and she had to have double mastectomy, but she lived, I guess I want to say maybe 20 years or so after, maybe a little bit longer after diagnosis. So I didn't, the process of the type of cancer she had didn't really enter my mind. So it was just, to me, it was just like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what's got to happen. Okay, she's going to be fine.
She's going to be fine. A lot of people
Right.
don't understand that there are different stages,
Mm-hmm.
not just stage 1 through 4, but it's
Right.
1A, 1B,
B.
2A. And then when you hear triple negative,
Right.
having the understanding that you either have surgery, you have radiation, you can have
Right.
chemo, but there's
Right.
not a medication that follows after
Right. Exactly. And that was the thing that we did not know.
that. Mm-hmm.
That, they gave her, the chemo drug, and went into remission for 4 years. And, as I said in the podcast, hey, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I mean? And needless to say, came back a second time and a third.
I had a chance to meet your wife
Right.
with Jeanette Gregory. That's
Mm-hmm.
the first time that I told my story. And apparently that was the first time that Rose
Right. Right.
got up.
Right.
She got up to speak. She was a little nervous.
Right.
But when Jeanette calls, you show
You
up.
got to answer. You got to show up and answer.
So tell me how you and Jeanette, you guys met.
Well, I met Jeanette through the event that you spoke at and that Rose
Mm-hmm.
spoke at. And we talked about it before. You and I had the discussion where, leading up to her speaking, she kept saying, honey, I don't know what to say. What am I going to say? And I said, just be yourself, say what's on your mind. And even the day of, which was that Saturday, I still don't know what I'm going to say. I say what you feel, say what's on your heart. And as we said, needless to say, it turned out to be a great speech. I met Jeanette there at the event because when Rose got up to speak, I heard Jeanette in the background say, "Give him the mic." So it started from that little piece because her and Rose had developed a relationship prior to. And then, as things started to change with Rose, Jeanette's presence became more so. Her and I started having conversations. In the process, she told me about the book. Asked me if I wanted to participate. I said, absolutely. And then the relationship just blossomed from that. And we're still good friends today. As a matter of fact, talked to her a couple of days ago. So, I mean, she's like I said, when Jeanette calls, you got to answer.
You have to answer.
Yeah, you got to answer. When she calls, you got to answer. And for those of you that don't know her, you'll understand what we're talking about if you knew her.
She's amazing.
She really is.
She definitely played a big part on why I'm still here.
Right.
And you were able to participate in her book, Love Me So I Can Live. And a lot of men have that's like their side book. That's their Bible. That's what they read when they're going to chemotherapy with their wives, trying to find out what can they do to support them during that time.
Right.
How was it for you to write in that book, see your words come to life, knowing that you're helping other caregivers?
It was interesting for me because, as I told you before, I'm not a writer. I'm just not a writer, but I had a lot to say. And what I wrote, and I hate to keep repeating myself, but I'll repeat it anyway. What I wrote was what I was either dealing with that day, the day before, or what I had experienced through the week, month, whatever. Everything that I was dealing with was what I wrote in the book. A lot of stuff that Rose expressed to me, I wrote in the book. So the inspiration came from her, and then me dealing with what I was dealing with, and I just put it out there. And going back and looking at the words and some of the stuff that I've done, even like we talked about the podcast, and I said, "Really? You said that? Okay." So
people tend to say a lot in the podcast,
right.
And when I release it, they'd be like, I don't remember giving all that information
out. And it's really not so much of giving the information. It's just that you're saying, wow, I've never really expressed myself this way before. So that, again, that writing the book was a form of therapy for me, really, to be honest with you. It was a form of therapy for me. It helped me get through a lot of days.
Well, last week we had Dr. Berry on, and I seen that you were watching our live, and you mentioned, where are the men at? How was it going through and supporting your wife? And was there anything there for you? Were there any support groups out there? Were you looking?
No. Well, I had family, and I had friends, but I didn't really look for the support group. A lot was me. A lot was me internally battling. Okay. Me watching Rose going through what she's going through, and her giving me strength, telling me, honey, it's okay. Even when I knew it wasn't okay, it's okay. Just going through that, I didn't really look for anyone to lean on. And I guess the main reason is because I had conversations with a couple of people, and they looked at me like something was coming out of my head, like something was like, why are you telling me all this? So I more or less really relied on myself, my inner strength, and praying. And I'm not one of those that pray all day, pray every day. I'm not one of those. I pray it, I give it to him, and I leave it there because he heard me the first time. You don't need to hear me 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times asking the same thing over and over again. Okay, this is what you need. I got you. So basically, that's what I attribute it to. That inner strength I had, watching her, and then her giving me support when she was dealing with what she was dealing with. you know,
Yes.
and that part to me was amazing because that's a part that a lot of people don't know, because she was more worried about me after, because she knew it was going to happen eventually. She was more worried about what was going to happen to me or how I was going to cope, you know, and so all that in itself just gave me strength. And as I said, I didn't really rely on anybody to help me get through. I just said, okay, this is what I need to do. I will tell you that, you know, after she passed, kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but after she passed, I went through this a dark period, not for a long time, but for a dark period where I didn't want to be here anymore. You know, I just didn't want to be here. There was a point where I remember when I was at work one day, and I wrote this in the book. I tried to cut a deal with God. You know,
Mm.
I told him, I said, look, give me her cancer, you know, because I felt like she had more to live for than I did. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went through that phase. I went through the phase of not wanting to be here anymore. But then I could hear her little voice in the back of my head, honey, why? Think about your mother. Think
Mm.
about your kids. Think about your friends. Think about everybody in between. You know, and that's not what I was thinking about. I was being selfish because I was thinking about how I felt and what I wanted at that given moment.
And your wife actually tried to talk to you before
Right,
she passed.
right. 2 years before she passed.
2 years before she passed.
Hmm.
So let's fill our audience in. Your wife had a couple of reoccurrence. She was diagnosed
Right,
the first time.
right.
Then she had a reoccurrence when?
4 years later,
Okay. And was
after the
there
first reoccurrence,
after the first reoccurrence? And was there a third
was
reoccurrence?
a third reoccurrence. You know,
Okay.
and in between the second and third was when, you know, after I said 2 years after or 2 years before she passed, in
Mhm.
between that third occurrence is when she wanted to have the conversation, you know, and we're in the kitchen, you know, downstairs in the house in the kitchen, and there's an island in the kitchen, and she was on one side and I was on the other. And she said to me, you know, and here's the thing that came back to me, and this is what I meant to say in the podcast. I had looked up at the clock, right? The
Mhm.
clock said 4:07 exactly. I still remember that right now. I looked up at the clock. Clock said 4:07
Mhm.
p.m. And she said, we need to have this conversation about, you know, me not being here, you know, and I said it colorfully, but I'm going to say it this way now. I said, Rose, I'm not trying to have this bleeping conversation with you right now. She
Mhm.
said, okay, you know, but again, you know, 2 years later, we wound up having to have the conversation anyway, you know.
Men tend to, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Hmm.
we want to fix things, right?
Absolutely.
You want to
Absolutely.
fix things.
Right.
So when you're not able to fix things, what do? Here's something that's coming to seek and destroy.
Right.
And so you're going to jump all in.
Right.
All You're going to go all in.
Right.
But listening to what might happen
Hmm.
might be, like you said, hard to hear.
Right.
Yeah. So after the second reoccurrence, did you tell your family or did you wait on telling them?
We waited. Well, no, we actually told them. It was the third reoccurrence that we kind of waited on a little bit, but then things started to change, so we had to wind up telling them. But you know, when it all started hitting again, as you said, and men, we tried to fix everything. I wasn't trying to hear it. I don't care. I'm still trying to fix this. I'm doing what I got to do. I don't care. I'm not even trying to hear what you're telling me over here. I'm not trying to hear what you're telling me over there. I'm not hearing that. You know, and so I basically just um, did what I needed to do. And for me, it was all out of love. It had nothing to do with being obligated, whatever. Love. That's it. This is the love I have for you, and this is what I'm doing for you. This is what I got to do for you. Forget everything else. You know,
This is
this is what I'm doing for you. You know, because I love you. So again, unconventional. I guess I don't know, but at the same time, if it's here, if it's laid on you here, you do what here tells you got to do. You know, and that's what I did. Really, Regina, that's what I did. I have
she
no
well
other answer for that.
she was your rose.
Right? She was
She was your
Rose.
rose.
Right.
And when the third time, when the reoccurrence happened the third
Hmm.
time, hospice was called in.
Hmm.
And during that time, you guys were still trying to travel.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that.
But before hospice stepped in, it was like in January of 2015. And we had been talking about it in December. I said, okay, we can go to Hawaii. I was going to take her to Hawaii. And things started to get a little different. So we kind of pushed it back a little bit, but our intent was to still go. After we went to see her oncologist, and the thing of the treatments weren't really working, and he suggested hospice. And as I said, when I heard hospice, the first thing I was like, oh God, but once I found out what they did, it put my mind at ease. So when they did step in, and this is like around about February, March, somewhere in that neighborhood, March, April, somewhere in that neighborhood. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, they asked, to get to know us and all that other kind of stuff. But anyway, they asked, is there something that you guys want to do? And had anything? I said, yeah, well, I actually had a plan. I was going to take her to Hawaii in January. They said, well, we can make that happen for you. I said, really? They said, yeah. I said, and it's free. And me, free 99.
We're
Free
going.
99. That's my price. We're going. And they said we even give you a little cash to spend. And I said, okay, great. And they discussed it. The doctor, they had to discuss it with the doctors and all. And then they came back and said that they felt like the trip to Hawaii would be too much for her, too much stress on her, because the tumors had spread to her lungs and her heart around that time. So they asked, was there any place else we wanted to go? And, we said we like to go to Florida, and we had a grandson that lived in Tampa at the time. And so we wound up going to St. Petersburg, and, they put us up in the great resort on the beachfront. I mean, it was a great weekend. She wasn't at her best, but she made the best of it. And as I said in the podcast, and as I said before, that when we went on the trip, before we went on the trip, because I knew she wasn't really up for it. And I said to her, honey, listen, we don't have to go on this trip if you don't want to. We can stay and we can do something else. And she was, no, I really want to go on this trip. I need this trip. Okay, great. And we go. And again, we made the best of it. It was a great weekend. I didn't realize until after things changed that the reason why she wanted to go on the trip, because it was the last trip she knew that her and I was going to take together. And I didn't know it at the time, but my whole thing was Rose. Whatever Rose needs, I got you.
You're going to be
whatever
there.
you need, I'm there. What you need, okay. You need me to go where? To New Jersey and get your sandwich? Okay, I'm going.
All the way from South Carolina.
From North Carolina. I'm going whatever you need. I'm going to get it for you. So that was my focus. She was my focus, and I don't have any regrets about it. I don't have, would I have done anything different? No, I wouldn't have done anything different.
Now, when you guys returned back from your trip, how was life after that?
When we got back, I was told that, the doctors said they wouldn't be coming back to the house. He wouldn't be coming back to the house because once we got back, she was starting to go downhill. And probably, I guess, maybe 2.5 weeks after we were back, you could start to see the change. The lymph nodes in her arm had already stopped working because her left arm was pretty swollen up pretty bad. And again, you could just start to see the change. We had a oxygen concentrator at the house with long holes on the end. We should go upstairs and downstairs. Her breathing capacity at times became a little labored. Trying to get her to go upstairs, coach her to go up the stairs, and we get to up a couple of stairs, and I would just say, "This is your resting spot. Rest here, and then we'll go the rest of the way." And then there were times where she was just like, "Okay, let me just go straight up these stairs, and get to the top and sit on the edge of the bed, and trying to get her breathing together, that type of thing." And then it became more of, okay, I need to take care of you a little bit better than what I'm doing. I need to do a little bit more than what I'm doing. Going to work, trying to work, and then still trying to deal with her. Had some family members step in, and help out. There were times where she really didn't want me to leave the house to go to work. And I said, okay, I'm not going to work. She was like, no, honey, the bills got to be paid. And that's to tell, don't worry about that. That's going to get taken care of. Don't even worry about it. My focus is you right now. And it's hard to explain to people that when you watch a person go from, hey, great, go from 100, and you watch this gradual decline and you have no control over it. It's a hard thing to watch. It's a very hard thing to watch. Um, Again, I couldn't even explain to people what I was going through, what I dealt with, because again, they just wouldn't get it. And I'm not, again, that's not intentional. That's just the understanding part.
Wow. Your family
Right.
being there with you
Right.
as Rose is nearing the end.
Right.
At the beginning of our live, we played an excerpt from our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so powerful. And right
Mm-hmm.
before that portion that we played, you talked about your last time with your wife
Mm-hmm.
and the healing on the other side. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why I chose that part because it was so powerful to me
Mm-hmm.
that you were talking about healing on the other side
Mm-hmm.
when your wife is transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that had to be very difficult for you.
It was. It really was, because I I was mad after she transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I was mad at God, and I'm not even going to sit here and tell a lie. I was mad, and I was in my living room, and I said in the podcast, the broadcast, that I stood in the middle of my living room and went off, and I said to God, but you said, this is what you said. This is what you said, and I'm like, and then as time went by and I thought about it, I said, I'm here telling God what he said. He already, you know what I mean? So, but I viewed it as he understood where I was coming from. I was mad and I was upset. But see, again, that was me being selfish, thinking about what I wanted, not what she wanted. She didn't want to be sick anymore. She was tired of fighting that battle. And I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. That vessel was tired. It was beat up. The war that it went through with the drugs, the radiation, and everything else, it was tired. And she just didn't want to feel like that. She just wanted to feel better. She just wanted peace. And I tell people, God didn't cure her, he healed her. And there's a huge difference in that. And that's the part that people say, what do you mean? Just what I said. He didn't cure her, he healed her. He gave her that peace that she wanted. Like I told you before, when I found her that morning and saw her face, she was resting on my chest and she had that smile on her face. I knew she was truly at peace. And even now, when I talk about that moment, it just still does something to me, because I don't know if anybody has ever gone through that or been down that road where a person that you love passes on you and they're resting on you.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And you
yes.
and you see them and you're like, wow. And it's like, and part of you is like, it's almost like a dream in a way, and but seeing that smile on her face gave me comfort to let me know that she was really at peace. And that to this day still makes me feel better, that I know she's at peace. Just like I told you, that's why I don't go to the gravesite. I've only been there 2 times since she's passed, and for people, the gravesite is an emotional connection. It's some sort of connection. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, because she's not there. She was never there. The only thing that's there is the vessel that she was in. That's it. And for some people, again, it brings comfort and relief. For me, it brings pain, because, and the reason why I say it brings pain, because that's not how I wanted to remember her.
Yes.
That's not what I want to see, is go to the gravesite and see her tombstone and say, okay, this is where she rests. That's not me, because as far as I'm concerned, she's still right here. No
Yes.
matter whatever happens, she's still right here in my heart. Um, so it wasn't easy. At times it wasn't easy. There were some people, and I'm not going to name names. I'm not even going to name names. But there
Yeah.
were people who, when I was going through what I was going through, called me at the right time. Called me at the right time. I would never tell them what was going on, but it was just the phone call at the right time.
Just
So just
hearing someone
hearing,
else's
yeah,
voice.
yeah, exactly. So,
And now we've named this live that we're doing right now. We call it Beyond the Healing
mm-hmm.
because the healing happened on the other side. How are you healing?
Part of it is telling her story.
Mm-hmm.
The other part I came to realize is that I can't stop living. I have to continue to live. Yes, my life is different because I don't have Rose with me anymore to travel and hang out and all those other different things. Yeah, my life is different in that aspect. But my life, I couldn't let my life come to a complete halt.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that reasoning is because her friend, she had a few friends and some family members said the same thing. Listen, Rose would not want you to not be happy. She would want you to live your life, enjoy your life. I had someone tell me point blank that you live your vows out all the way to the end, till death do us part. She was right here when she left here, resting right here when she left here. So, they say you honored, your vows all the way to the end. What else is left? You got to live your life. You got to move on. You got to live your life. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been trying to do.
Yes.
That's what I've been trying to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that I still don't have moments,
Yeah.
where it could be a song, it could be anything that just triggers something, and I know that that's going to be a part of me until the day I leave here, and so, but I've learned that life must go on. I know that I'm not the first husband or significant other to lose a significant other. I know that. I know I'm not going to be the last. I
Mm-hmm.
know each situation is a little bit different, and people handle it different. You know, my thing was, if I allowed myself to become that emotional wreck like some people do,
Mm-hmm.
then that wouldn't have did me any good, and it wouldn't have did people around me any good, because now I'm putting another burden on other people, because now people are worried about me.
Exactly. You talked about the night after Rose passed,
Right,
and you guys have these amazing dogs,
right,
right?
right,
And people are worried about you. It's the night
right,
after, right?
right, right,
And your dogs are keeping you together.
right. So the night after she passed, um, and the dogs, Jack and Josh, and anybody that knows us knows those two guys. But anyway, they were in the room. My room door was cracked open about so far, but they were in the room, and they were just like I was telling you, I was like kind of sleep, but not really sleep, just like halfway there. And they were just like making off, just going off. And I know when they did that, she was the only one that they did that around. And then I felt like a little peck on my cheek, and I was like, okay. And I went to sleep. And, the next day I woke up, and it was like, she came to check me out and let me know that she was okay. Because right after that, the dogs got really quiet, went back to their normal self, and that was that. It's even like when she passed, when the nurse came to the house to confirm and everything and do what they do, the first thing she asked me, she said, "Where are the dogs?" I said, "They're in the cage." She said, "Let them out." So let them out the cage, and they jumped up on the bed. One got on one side of her, one got on the other side of her. They smelled her, licked her, jumped off the bed, and laid back down on the floor.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how dogs know when you're going through.
Oh yeah, even when I was in the house trying to eat my first meal without her, I cooked the meal, cooked for them too, and I'm sitting at the table and I'm trying to eat this meal, and I couldn't eat it, and I got up and I went and sat on the stairway, and I started to cry, and in the midst of that, one of my dogs, Jack, he comes up and puts both his paws up and looks me in the eye like to say, "Daddy, it's okay." And in the back of my mind, I could hear Rose's little voice, "Honey, it's okay. Go sit down and eat your meal. It's all right. It's okay." And went back in the kitchen and sat down and ate my meal, and I was good. So, a lot of people that know me, they say your dogs, your dogs, your dogs. They're my guys. They're my guys. They help me get through a lot. They in a way to me understood it better than a human, really,
Mm-hmm.
in all honesty. Um, and they've just been there, and they still there with me now.
Anytime I had to,
Anytime.
anytime I had to go through surgery or I had to have something done, my dog
Mm-hmm.
right there by my
Mm-hmm.
side
Mm-hmm.
knows that something is wrong. Knows
Mm-hmm.
that something's wrong before I know something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They know
Absolutely.
when you're stressed.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are out here sharing Rose's story, and you talked about not having like a platform
Right.
to share the story. You'll walk around with your pink shirt on, your
Right.
pink bracelet,
Like
your
now.
hat, and someone always asks you,
Right.
"Why are you wearing that?"
And I.
You would go into a store and you share your story, and you touch so many people. When
Right.
you and Jeanette were on the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
you guys touched so many people
Mm-hmm.
and continuing to do that. So, what are you doing now with sharing Rose's story?
Same thing. When somebody asks me what the pink is about,
Mm-hmm.
and I go into the story, and most of the time, when I go into the story, a lot of times there are times when I do a little bit of a condensed version, but I give them the meat of it,
Yeah.
and I tell the story, and when I tell it, it moves people in so many different ways, from crying to I can't believe what you went through, and your strength, and so on and so forth. So again, my platform is just wherever I am, wherever it gets laid on me to say, hey, you need to share it with this person. That's what I do. Again, as I said before, I've never been asked to come and speak to 1,000 people and share my story, that kind of thing. I've never been asked to do that. I've had church that wanted me to come and tell it, but again, COVID and everything else.
Yeah.
But I've never, you know, had that platform. Not saying that I couldn't, but for me, it's a little bit more intimate and more detailed when you're able to talk to people one on one, because the reception of it and how they receive it is completely different versus when you're in a room and you're speaking to 1,000 people,
Mm.
because they might receive it different in that environment. But if it's one on one, you know, it's a little different. It's like, I don't even remember if I don't know if I've told you this. I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
if I have, but I know that at one of the facilities that I was in, there was a lady there, and I might have mentioned it to you, that I had on pink that day, and she asked me, and I went into the story. And the
Mm-hmm.
whole time I'm having this conversation with her, now mind you, I don't know this lady from Adam. I've never seen her before.
Uh-huh.
She's standing and she's sitting, and she kept looking behind me. And I kept looking at her, and she said, I know you're wondering why I'm looking behind. Yeah. I said, yeah. She said, because I see Rose's silhouette. Um, she doesn't even know Rose. I hadn't even shown her a picture of Rose. Okay. She said, I see Rose's silhouette. And she described it. And I'm sitting there like, okay. She starts telling me about her sister, who had cancer. She lived in California. She was telling me about, all that stuff. And, we continued to talk. And she started to cry, of course, and I told her, don't cry, I said, because let me get to the end of the story. And then I got to the part, about the smile and all that kind of stuff. And she said, can I give you a hug? I said, sure. And she gave me
Mm-hmm.
a hug, and we talked a little bit. And she said, you know what? She said, I think you'd be a really good motivational speaker. And I'm like, okay. I said, I kind of sort of been told that before, but I said, I never followed up on it. She said, I'm going to bring you this book. And she told me the author, and I forget the name of the author, but she told me, she said, I'm going to bring you this book. I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay. That was on a Wednesday. She told me she was there every Wednesday. I saw her on that Wednesday. I never saw her again to this day. And that's been almost 3 years now. I haven't seen her since. And I asked the director in my facility, I said, do you know this lady? She said, no. I described it to the T. I don't know who that is. I asked other employees, I said, do you know this nurse? Nope.
Mm.
I've never seen her before. I don't even know who that is. And to this day, it still boggles my mind. You
You
know,
never know who you're
never
gonna
know who you're
touch
going to, you never
and
know.
who's gonna touch
Touch you.
you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what advice would you give to other men or loved ones who are hearing these words, you have cancer?
Um, First thing I want to tell you that if it's your significant other, whomever, remember it's not about you. It's not about you. You know, it's them. It's what they're dealing with. You have to remember that what they want is what they want. Stop thinking about
Mm-hmm.
what you want. It's what they want. It might seem crazy to you, but it's not crazy to them. You know, you have to do what they want you to do. You have to be that support system for them. You have to be there for them. You have to be that cheerleader for them. You have to be that sixth man on the bench when the coach says, okay, I need you to get in the game because we're down by 10 points and I know you can bring us back. You have to do that. You just gotta, you just, for lack, step outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to step outside of yourself and do what you need to do. Don't get so caught up in the facade of, oh, it's cancer. I don't know what to do. Blah, blah. No, you know exactly what to do. You know what to do. Nobody needs to tell you what to do. You know exactly what to do. What happens is when you let outside forces interfere with you and tell you what you should be doing, that's where you get messed up at. But your heart tells you what to do. You know what you need to do. You know what you should do. You know what you're supposed to do. So just be there. Love them. Hold them. But one thing don't do is woo 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 them because they don't want to hear that part. They need you to be strength for them because they're having a hard time being strong. So you got to be strength for them.
That is definitely, you know, when I was going through,
Mm-hmm.
I did not like to be around a lot of people because it
Right.
took a lot of energy. Plus,
Right.
you don't know what's out there. But I
Right.
didn't like to be around a lot of people.
Right.
So, but the energy that it took me just to be
Mm-hmm.
present was a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Right.
And it takes that same energy for that caregiver. But
Absolutely.
as we talked before about like Jeanette being in our corners, having the right people in your corner,
Mm-hmm.
the people who can step in and help,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the people who know how to step back and
Mm-hmm.
allow, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody was like, well, your husband was taking care of you, I knew you were fine, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
was that phone call that I received from a
Mm-hmm.
friend,
Mm-hmm.
or that I'm gonna show up, I don't care if you don't want to see me, I'll be sitting outside. So oh, so
You know,
cutest
it's
girl said, thank you, Michael, for being so transparent and telling your story.
you're
Not just
welcome.
Rose's story, but your story as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
And
For me, I feel that you need to tell that.
mm-hmm,
You can't hold that in. You've got to get it out. And however you get it out, however you choose to get it out, that's what you need to do. You can't you can't wage it, or let me put it this way, you can't wage the war by yourself. You
yeah.
know, you have to put it out in the atmosphere and say, okay, look, this is what I'm dealing with. You know, this
Mm-hmm.
is what's going on. And regardless of the reception that you get, as long as you get it out of here, you're fine. But it's when you hold it in is when the real war begins. But if you let it out, it's like if somebody says to you, man, you crazy, whatever. I got it out of my system. I'm good. I feel better. I got it out. I'm good. Whether you
And
listen to me or not. you know?
and you did that also with the writings that you did.
Right.
You're letting it out.
Absolutely.
You
I
said
let
you
it
were
out.
journal. The
Yeah.
books that you were able to read by Jeanette and the ones
Right.
you were able to contribute to, you
Right.
gotta let it
You
out.
got to let it out. You know,
Gotta
you
have
have to
those
let it out.
moments.
Yeah, you have, and it's okay. Men, if there are any men on this podcast, let me tell you, as a man, it is okay to cry.
Mm.
It is okay if you can't fix it. Okay. It is okay. You're not Superman. It is
Mm-hmm.
okay. It is okay if your significant other is ranting and raging at you because you know why? Because they know that your strength is what's going to get them through. Okay,
Mm.
so let them rant and rave, let them do whatever they feel like at you, because again, you got to remember it's not about you and it's not personal. It's how they're feeling at their moment. And because you just happen to be there, so you're that moving target at that given moment. you
That
know,
is a
so
true story.
you have to, you just have to deal with that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. So men, it is okay to feel the way you feel. It is okay to be mad. It is okay to cry. It is okay to do all those emotions. So just don't think women have those emotions now, because we do too. Okay. But the thing about it is, when you're going and you're having those emotions, is what you do when you're going through it. Do you let them see you go through it? Or do you just deal with it on your own? Me, I would never let Rose see me go through that. As much as there were days where it was just like, I just want to say, you know what? I don't even want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
You
like,
have those moments.
yeah,
Let's
you
be
have
real.
those moments. Yeah, you have those moments. Look, I don't even want to deal with this anymore. But you have to go back and say, this is not about me.
It's not about me.
It's not
Like
about
Jeanette
me.
said, you cannot take it personal.
You can't take it personal, because it's not personal. Again, it's not about you. And so I never let her see me be upset. You okay? I'm good. Go on and do what I need to do.
She feeds
I
off
remember.
your energy.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna laugh at this one. there, there, there was a
Oh
day.
no. Go ahead.
There was a day where, because our house is upstairs, downstairs. So there was one day where she just wanted a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I was going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down the stairs. I mean, I swear I must have went up and down the stairs about 15, 20 times that day. And I got downstairs and I said under my breath, I'm not going to keep going up and down these daggone stairs. It's starting to get on my nerve. But again, you have to step back and say, it's not about you.
Yeah.
And that's what I did that so many times, even through all the chaos that was swirling around, between, friends, family, everything else. And just like you were saying about, not wanting to be around company, where, we were just having people come over. And I got that people wanted to come and see how she was doing. But what a lot of them didn't understand was that she needed rest.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things the doctor kept. She needs rest. Can't have a lot of people around. And what those people didn't understand, that her immune system wasn't that great. Between the drugs and everything else going on, and then her body just trying to fight off whatever was going on. So it was a lot going on. But in spite of all that, again, like I said, it wasn't about me. It was about her. So
about Rose.
yeah.
Well, the audience that doesn't know this, but on the 3rd of next month, the first Wednesday in the month, I'm actually going to have a panel of everyone who is on the show this month. So I'm looking forward to you coming back and joining us.
I'm all in.
And I might be calling you a couple of times.
Right. I'm all in.
Because we're getting a great response of looking at the caregiver side of it, looking at, the spouses that are working through and being on that other side.
Right.
And we're talking about beyond the healing.
Right.
And guys, make sure you go and check out the podcast, so you can learn more. I'm not even going to talk about what we talked about towards the end of our podcast. So you can learn more about whatever he said at the end of that podcast that was so interesting. That got you about 2,000 Twitter hits.
Actually, it was Facebook, but
Facebook after got you 2,000 Facebook hits, because it's different.
It's different. Life is different. Everything is different. Having to learn how to, and I'm not even going to say learn, I'm just going to say having to be in the realm of dating again.
Yeah.
Having to be in the realm of doing, certain aspects, by yourself versus, you have someone with you to do that all the time. And in relationship, thing that I used to say all the time, to especially men, when I talk to them, I said, look, I'm the man of my house, not the boss of my house. There's a huge difference.
You best
and
believe that.
So yeah, and it's a huge difference, and a lot of people don't really understand what that means. And I say, man's job is to love, protect, and provide, and do those other little things, fix the door, whatever the case might be. The boss does the other stuff that the man don't want to deal with, that she doesn't feel like he needs to know, or that he doesn't need to be involved in. I'm going to handle that,
Wow.
and when you understand your position, I always say that when you understand what your position is in your relationship, everything is fine. But if you don't understand what your position is, there's going to be a problem. And so, with Rose and I understood what my position was when she was diagnosed from the beginning to the end. I knew what my position was. It was laid on me. Did I like it? Nope. Because it forced me into something that I was not comfortable with in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But when I understood my position and I settled in the role, I was good.
So,
I was good.
cutest girl said, "Can you do a class for other men?"
Certainly.
She's probably talking about the comment about boss.
Right.
Am I correct?
and that's
Provider
and
of
that's the
boss.
truth. Yeah.
It's a
And
true statement,
and that's
though.
the truth. And that is the truth. I'm not telling a lie. It's the truth. You have to understand what your position is. And I said it before and I will say it again. Our marriage is just like any other marriage. We had the good, the bad, and the ugly. We went through
Mm-hmm.
that part. But you have to understand what your position is. As I said before, Rose and I never argued. Oh, we had intense negotiations, but we didn't really argue.
I
And,
like
and,
that.
and yeah, we had intense negotiations because I always say, like I told you last time when we had this discussion, if you have an argument, somebody's going to throw something out in the atmosphere. And when it's out there, you can't pull it back.
You
Okay.
can't
So
take it back.
whether you meant it or you didn't mean it, once it's out there, you can't pull it back. So now what happens is if an argument or a discussion comes up, something
Mm-hmm.
that you said, that person's going to be like, I remember when she said, or he said, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's the reason, one of the main reasons why I didn't like to argue. And she knew it. She used to
Mm-hmm.
try to pick at me and to get me to argue. Say, I'm not going to argue with you. And I used to tell
Mm-hmm.
that all the time. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to do that. You just know. Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead. You can yell at me if you want. I don't care, but I'm not. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to do that. And even through the battle,
Mm-hmm.
her cancer battle, again there, again everything she was dealing with. I'm not going to go there with you right now. We're not doing that. So you can get mad at me, whatever you feel like you want to do, but I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to stay
You're
in
going
this
to be
box right
there.
now. Yeah, I'm going to be in this box and I'm going to stay there. And whatever you need to do, I'm here.
You're going to provide.
I'm going to provide. Yeah.
Well,
So
is there anything that you would like to share with our audience? I really do appreciate you coming on again, our second time guest.
well, actually three, because when Jeanette was on, me and
Yep.
Jeanette was on that time. So actually it's the third time. So I'm like, they always say third time is the charm. But
Third
anyway.
time because you did a live and then you did our podcast
Right.
and then you did another live and you're
Right.
doing another live
Another
on.
live. Right. And and the thing about it is, I hope that somewhere along the line that, I have the opportunity on a podcast, whatever the case might be, to really delve into Rose and I's story, to
Mm,
really delve into the side of her story that I haven't had the opportunity to tell again on the podcast, because our time is limited,
yeah.
but I really want to delve into that to help people really understand, that it's okay.
Mm,
It's really okay. Stop trying to control it, because you can't control it. You have no control over that. You just be there. Just be there. Um, Whatever, if you have a support system, utilize it. If
mhm,
if you think that you can weather it on your own, then do that. And again, I'm just going to say it this way. I'm built for this. I'm built. Believe me when I tell you, Regina, I'm built for this.
mm,
I'm built for crisis mode. I'm
mhm,
built for disappointment. I'm built for heartache. I'm built for that. Because dealing with the Rose's situation really made me realize that I was built for this. That when you can weather something like that by yourself, without any major support, without any support group, and still be able to stand and tell this story, you're built for it.
mm.
You're definitely built for it. And it's okay if nobody doesn't understand it, but you.
But you
But you.
sharing your story, you out in the community, like you said,
Hmm.
you'll walk down the street again and
Hmm.
someone will ask you,
Hmm.
what's going on? Why are
Hmm.
you wearing that pink? A
Hmm.
lot of people need to hear that story. And
Hmm.
that's why we're inviting you back on the 3rd of March, guys, with the panel, because I do want to dig deeper. Like, I'm not trying to pull out your heartstrings.
Right.
I really want people to understand. I always thought with my husband that the caregiving side is lost.
Hmm.
I felt like it was just, we have to look at the people who take care of us, who
Hmm.
love us,
Hmm.
and what are they going through.
Hmm.
You shared with us you'd rather it be you than her. Those are the
Exactly.
things we need to talk about. Depression, we need to talk about grief, we need to talk about acceptance,
Hmm.
right? We need to
Hmm.
talk about, we're up here trying to bargain with God, what can we do?
Hmm.
So those are the things that I would like to talk more of, and I think I'm
Right.
going to come up with a thing on Chemo Glow,
Hmm.
like a segment for our men to continue
Yeah.
to talk about these
Yeah.
things.
Because and what you just said, all of it is true.
Yeah.
You never, like I said, when I share her story, when I told people about the book, I tell them that what you're hearing is a story from the caregiver's perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
and this is the exact thing I hear every single time. That's a story that we don't hear.
Mm-hmm.
We don't never hear that story. And I tell them, we go through that emotional roller coaster ride. We don't go through the physical part because, again, we're not the ones battling what's ever going on with their body. We go through that. We go through of the why. We go through being mad. We go through who do I talk to. We go through that whole thing. We get mad and we cry or whatever the case may be, and we try to conceal that. Me, no, I didn't conceal any of that. I will tell you this because I know we're probably going to have to go here in a little bit, but I'll tell you, I will tell you this, that I know that I was at work. This was when I was still living in Charlotte, and I was at work,
Mm-hmm.
and I, to this day, I think I went back to work too soon, but I was trying to be normal again in a way. So I know
Mm-hmm.
I was at work, and I was in the bathroom, and I came out of the bathroom, and I just broke down right there. Came outside, and I was right there by the break room, and I just broke down. And my coworker just happened to be coming along right at the same time, and she grabbed me. She said, "I know." And right after she grabbed me, another one of my coworkers came, good friend of mine. He's like a brother to me, and they held on to me that day. And they held me up that day because I was really bad. It was really, really bad that day. I mean, really, I can't even really explain, but I was in a bad way that day. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and they just held me up. And my director said to me, "You came back to work too soon."
Too soon.
Yeah, she
And
told me I came back too soon. I
you
didn't
know
give
what?
myself a chance.
There's always a part two,
Right,
because that's something I want to talk about, is coming back to work too soon when you're
right.
a caregiver, but
Mm-hmm,
having to be the provider
mm-hmm,
as well.
mm-hmm,
It really does
mm-hmm.
affect the way you interact with other people.
It
So,
does.
so don't worry. There will be a part four. So you just know that I'm going to call on you. Well, Michael, I want to thank you so much for sharing and giving and just telling us and being honest with us about your truth and sharing
Absolutely.
Rose's story. So
Absolutely.
we are going to see you on the 3rd, if I'm correct. That's the first Wednesday
Uh-huh.
of March, when we talk about the panel of guests.
Right.
And I would love for us to jump in more about this.
Watch this. Your
Thank
people gonna be
you.
like, "Him again? Tired of
Oh,
seeing him." No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
you were requested after the first one. I already knew. When is he coming? February. And I kept my word. Are we
Right.
still in February?
Right.
I said Valentine's Day.
Right.
I knew it when we did that live. I said, I'm bringing them back. And then I thought about it and I said, I'm doing all men that month, because we always shower everybody with love, the
Right.
hearts, the
Right.
women. But I was like, I want to honor you guys. And thank you again for sharing Rose's story. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
My pleasure.
Until next time, I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Anytime.
guys. We are coming back next Wednesday at 8. We have been talking to caregivers. The next two guests that I have on, they will be talking about what they've gone through being diagnosed with cancer. So just remember that the glow doesn't define me, I define the glow. Thank you guys for chatting with us, staying on. I appreciate you guys. And please make sure you check out Nunny Reece Fundraiser, GoFundMe. You can find it on Chemo Glow, our Facebook page. You can find it on our YouTube page. Just check it out, donate. We appreciate you. Until next time, bye.